Welcome to Hero's Journey Physio Fitness. Our mission is to empower, inspire, and mentor people to reclaim their health and become self-reliant in their fitness. I'm your host, Dr. Cameron Hogue. Join with me as my co-host, Annabelle Rios.
All right, we are going live in 3, 2, 1. Welcome, guys, to another episode. You know the drill. Go to Instagram, like it. Wait, is it like it? Follow?
I don't know. I guess it's follow.
Which one? Is it follow? I'm getting confused.
Follow us.
Follow us. And also go on X.
X?
It's X, no longer Twitter.
X. Never heard of her.
Facebook, it is like the page. Like the page on Facebook. And give us a 5-star review.
That's right.
On the podcast.
We're going to twist your arm if not.
Man, I am struggling today.
For like one of the first times in a while, we actually had to delete the intro. We were like slap happy as we were recording this.
I was like, we normally joke around. It's like, what do I say? Is it 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3? But we got that part right. But then we just gave each other this look. I was like, wait, who's talking? You're talking? I'm talking?
It was like 5 minutes of silence before we're like, what?
And then it was like, ACL? Never heard of her.
Anyway, guys, we're a little slapped. We're recording on a different day of the week. We're a little out of our rhythm. So hang with us today as we talk about how to rehab your ACL.
Last time we talked about preventing it.
Yeah.
Clearly you didn't listen.
Clearly.
And now we're here.
And now we're at this point. But before we get into that, I want to tell you about a very special friend of ours. I guess they're not a friend. It's a company. Legions Athletics. Legions is the #1 brand of all natural supplements in the world. There's a few good reasons. All their products are 100% natural. No artificial sweeteners, flavors, or dyes. Legion doesn't use any proprietary blends. What you see is what you get. And Legion's only uses the clinically effective dose of the ingredients that have been proven to work. So, if you like what you just heard, head on over to www.legionsathletics.com. Use code HEROES, HEROES, to get 20% off your first order and double loyalty points on each order after that, aka free stuff. So to go do that.
Legion's Athletic.
But yeah, as Annabelle just said, you didn't listen to her advice. Maybe some freak accident happened. Congrats, you tore your ACL. Now what happens? So today's episode, the first thing we need to figure out is, are you a coper or a non-coper?
Yeah, copper or non-copper? Cap.
So I don't even think that's a word. I mean, I guess it is, but Word is not liking it. It's like underlying it in red. But basically, will you cope or will you not cope with your ACL being torn?
Is that going to be, I know we're probably going to get to, based on grades, level of tears? I know we briefly talked about it last time.
Yeah, these are talking majority about full tears, grade 3s, as we talked about last episode. So I want to just actually quote from a study by Paterno. So this is just what one of their articles said. It says, the current evidence suggests a small percentage of patients can successfully return to pivoting and cutting sports in the absence of an intact ACL. If a patient decides to pursue non-operative management in hopes of returning to pivoting and cutting sports, he or she should either participate in a rigorous screening tool, such as the one developed by Fitzgerald, or have a discussion about activity modification and staying away from pivoting and cutting activities. End quote. So, in simple terms, only a small percentage of people can actually return to high-level activities after they've fully torn their ACL. But there are some people that are very against surgery. And so I want to take you through today what that looks like. How are you wanting to return to high-level sports and don't want surgery? Then we're going to talk about the screening tool. If you are, not really wanting to return to high-level sports and you're not wanting surgery, then we need to talk about activity modification. And then at the very end, I'm going to unveil my 3-phase non-operative physical therapy protocol for regardless of if you are, modifying your activity or, trying to return to sport would work well for you.
So, question
Yeah.
for you. outside of personal preference, whether to have surgery or not, is there any benefit to not having a surgery? Why would someone decide not to?
So, I mean, obviously some people are very scared
Sure.
of having any sort of
So
surgery.
I guess outside of that
well, think about, let's just say, and I don't want to like put these type of parameters on people, but what if you're 50 years old and, you know, you just like your activities, you like to go on some runs, you like to do a little weightlifting and hike with your family. You tore your ACL, you don't have insurance, you can't afford the surgery, you know, so there can be insurance stuff involved, or maybe you just don't like I don't want to be out my job won't let me be out for 6 months, some stuff like that.
Okay.
There's different, you know, scenarios that can play out here, but you know, for some reason, some people won't have surgery on this.
Sure.
And, you know, for various reasons. But I do recommend with this to have surgery. I'm fairly against surgery, even though I'm a PT and see a lot of post-surgical things. But this is one that is, you know, they've got this one down pat. This one's they're running through these pretty good at this point.
Well, I mean, I think you see pro athletes go through. Unfortunately, they go through this in the next season. It's almost as if nothing happened.
Yeah, and something that article didn't say in that thing that I quoted, but it was in like the later part of the article is that if there is damage to the joint, the subchondral bone, the meniscus, or any other of the ligaments, that small percentage of patients that can successfully return to sport without having surgery drastically drops. This is just you purely tore your ACL, nothing else was damaged. So the more damage involved in the injury, the less likely you're going to be able to return to the same level of sport that you were before. So
yeah, I mean, that's why you say you should probably get it checked out.
For sure. Okay, so let's just say, again, you're one of the people, you're not wanting to have surgery. You just tore your ACL. I'm going to take you through a screening tool. And what this screening tool is going to do is give you a good idea. If you can complete these tasks, then you have a good chance of returning to sport. Okay. But this tool is going to catch a lot of people. I mean, this is a tough screening tool, especially if you just, you know, are feeling unstable and you have some pain and there's some swelling and you're hurting. So there's a long screening tool, and then I've got my simple screening tool, kind of taking the best out of that. It's less evidence-based, but it's more practical. Yeah. So here's the screening tool. There's 8 tests, I guess you could say. So the first test is a single hop for distance. So you get on the leg that just tore and you hop as far as you can on that one leg for distance. And then you hop on your non-surgical leg or the non-injured leg, and you do that as far as you can. Okay? Let's just say it's, you know, 5 feet versus 2.5 feet. I don't know. I'm just throwing a number out there. So 5 feet with your good leg, 2.5 feet with your bad leg, that's about 50%. You jumped about 50% of your good side, right? So 5 feet compared to 2.5 feet. And what this screening tool is saying, you want at least 80% symmetry between the injured and non-injured leg. So you would have to jump, I don't know what the math is there. It's 3.5 feet, I think, is what it would be. So that's a pretty rigorous standard on some of these things. But this is what they found give the best results for a small percentage of people to actually return to sports. So that's test number 1, single hop for distance. The second test is a triple crossover hop for distance. So basically, I know. So you basically have a line, you can put a line of tape that is 15 centimeters wide, and you just, you know, go, you know, 10 feet with it or something like that. So on the injured leg, you hop over the line, you land, then you hop back over the line, you land, and you hop back over the line, and you land. So you're basically going forward and to the side. And then you do that with your non-injured leg. And you want it to be at least 80%. If it's less than that, you failed the test. The third is a straight triple hop for distance. So you just hop 3 times as far as you can on one leg. Do it with your non-injured leg. Compare. Got to be at least 80%. Number 4, a timed hop in which the subject hops a distance of 6 meters as rapidly as possible. So you're hopping as quick as you can, as far forward as 6 meters as you can, and then you compare the time to your non-injured leg. So that one's timed.
These all sound painful.
Doesn't it? I think about it, if you just damaged your ligament. Anyway, this is what they found. This is what the research says. Number 5 is a quadriceps femoris, or knee extensor maximum voluntary isometric strength test. So they've got this thing that you kick and you kick your leg out into, and it measures how much force you can produce, and you measure it compared to your injured leg. Got to be at least 80%. There's a global rating of knee pain function. There's a little outcome measure. Like you answer some questions regarding your knee. Then there's a knee outcome survey of activities of daily living. So again, another survey you take, and there's certain scores you have to get on that. And then the last thing, number 8, is the number of reports of the knee giving way from the time of injury to the time of testing. So typically this would be tested pretty soon after you injured your leg. You kind of want to know right away, because you tore it, and you're trying to figure out if you want to have surgery or not. And they want less than 1 incidence of giving way. So anything over 1, you fail that test. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
So that's going to cut out a lot of people. So you might even be looking at that going, yeah, there's no way. I don't even have to attempt those things to know I have to pass that. So I made Cam. Do you have any questions about that?
No, that makes sense.
Okay. Then I've got Cam's simple screening tool, because guess what? No one's going to have
the Hogue special.
No one's going to have those outcomes surveys. No one's going to have a isometric strength test meter that measures that. Mm-hmm. So here's what I think. I've got 4 instead of 8. I still like the single hop for distance. I still like the triple hop for distance. I still like the triple crossover hop for distance.
You animal.
I know. And then I like the incidence of the knee giving way, less than 1 incidence. I would say actually less than 1 or 2, because it's definitely going to buckle on you a couple times. So
getting up from the toilet,
yeah.
You know it's going to buckle.
Especially when I unloaded. So if you pass that, then, obviously you have a higher chance of returning to sport without surgery. Then you need to go through a rehab protocol, which we're going to get to in a second. Oh my goodness, I forgot to give the disclaimer. We got talking about our mess ups earlier. Here's a disclaimer, people. I should have said this at the beginning. I'm going to say this now. Always seek advice from your medical doctor, from your PCP. Always check with them. I recommend seeing a physical therapist to assist you in all rehab. I do recommend that. Do your research, though. You don't want just a rando therapist that doesn't know what they're talking about. And there are some of those out there. There's a lot of good therapists now. Don't get me wrong. But you want a good therapist. Do some research, ask friends, all that kind of stuff. So I always recommend speaking to your physical therapist and your medical provider to assist you. Again, I'm just trying to arm everybody with the tools. Give you some know-how on what you need to do, take your next step, or if you're trying to do this on your own type deal. That was my disclaimer. Okay, so there's the one group of people. You're trying to return, you pass the test. Others of you will not pass that test. A large majority of you will not pass that test. So we need to actually start talking about activity modification. You're not going to return to soccer unless you have surgery. So we need to start talking about what that looks like. Or you might not be doing X, Y, or Z. We need to talk about what that looks like. Mm-hmm. So basically, when we're talking about modifying activities, we're saying we're wanting to try to avoid the activities that give you the feeling of instability. And you'll know if you've tore it, you'll know what that means. The knee just doesn't feel secure. It feels like it's going to twist, buckle, give way forward, whether that's, or even with rotation, it's going to feel weird. And it's a feeling of instability. And the feeling is because you actually have instability, but you'll right. You won't be hear like pops or clicks. You'll just have that feeling inside, and you'll know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So one thing is you got to avoid those dynamic high level activities: soccer, football, basketball, skiing. Like the knee is just not going to hold. Unless again you pass that test, you're not going to hold.
But even then, it's at 80%, right?
Right.
So you're still. Would you say you're still at risk?
Oh yeah,
so you're making it worse if you're doing these dynamic activities?
We talked last episode about when we're trying to prevent ACL tears, that some of the things that give you at more risk is that being deconditioned, having that weak core, where you are putting more stress onto those ligaments and they're taking more of the force. So now if one ligament's gone, you got all the other ligaments now taking on some of the force and everything. So yeah, it's going to make you more risk for potential injury for other things as well.
Yeah.
Especially if you're 80%. So what the research kind of recommends is instead of being able, avoiding dynamic activities, try focusing on like straight line sporting activities, rowing, jogging, cycling, swimming, triathlons, where they can still be high level. Don't get me wrong. You can still compete. You can still, do all that kind of stuff if you're into that. But it's probably going to be better if you're doing straight line activities where you're not cutting, pivoting, all that kind of jumping, all that kind of stuff. Another thing that comes up is CrossFit. Well, do I have to avoid CrossFit if I've torn my ACL? And I would say you don't have to, but you'll definitely have to modify some of the exercises.
Yeah,
for sure. There's going to be things that you won't be able to do. You'll have that feeling of instability and giving out, and the potential to, hurt yourself even more. But then again, there's a lot of things in CrossFit that you will be able to do. You'll just have to, you'll know your body. You'll kind of see what it feels like, but there's 100% things that you're going to have to modify if you go back to CrossFit. So people ask, weightlifting, do I have to avoid weightlifting? And I'd say, no, you don't have to avoid it unless, again, the exercise is causing feelings of instability.
Well, maybe like you can modify it similar to CrossFit. Like maybe a back squat may make you feel unstable, but a leg press doesn't.
Yeah, exactly. So there's things that you are now going to have to start modifying. You can still do some of the task. You'll just start to feel the instability, and that most likely will not get better unless you have surgery. Mm-hmm. So again, and there can be a bunch of other things as well that you can modify, but I want to hit the big ones because most of our people listening are, into fitness, sports, all that kind of stuff. Sure. So I want to make sure that we hit some of the big ones on the activity modification. So you just tore your ACL. You don't want to have surgery. I've got a protocol for you to follow.
Doctor's orders.
And I'm going to try, it's so hard to give you a protocol over a podcast. I'm going to, and this isn't as in depth as it would be if
we can put it in the show notes.
We'll put it in the show notes.
There we go.
And again, seeing a physical therapist, they would be able to adapt to your specific needs.
Exactly where you're at.
Again, I can't see exactly where everyone's at, but this is a good general protocol that I use in the clinic. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I got 3 phases of my protocol here. Well, I said that really country. My protocol. 3 phases here. So phase number 1, it's the post-acute injury impairment. So you're going to have some things that come up as soon as you injure your knee. Mm-hmm. So what we want to address, hemiarthrosis. Okay, bleeding in the joint cavity is what that means. Swelling, loss of range of motion, acute weakness in that knee, because not that the muscles are weak, but you're going to have some weakness due to the injury, some acute weakness. So those are the main things that in this post-acute injury impairment phase 1, we want to work on. Some of the things, some people are like, well, is this like 1 week, 4 weeks? And, some, post-surgical protocols are a little bit more, by the week. With this, we're going to look more at, how your body's responding. Like you move to the next phase when, we'll actually get there in a second, when you can do X, Y, and Z. But during this phase, here's some things we want to work on. The big one's going to be compression. Go get some sort of ACE bandage, some sort of compression sleeve. We want to start to help some of that bleeding in the joint cavity and some of the swelling. Why is there bleeding in the joint cavity? Even though ligaments are more avascular or have less of a blood supply, tearing that ligament is going to open up where it's going to bleed, and it's going to bleed inside the joint. So we want to try and pump a lot of that out of there as we can, let the body absorb it, and get that swelling out of there. The compression is really going to help. So my recommendation is you want to keep compression on that knee if you're walking around. So basically during the day. You can take it off at night, or if it starts to feel kind of uncomfortable, you know what I mean? Like it's hard to have something on your knee for that long. But disclaimer, don't wrap it so tight that it cuts off your circulation. Don't be an idiot.
Yeah.
Don't think the tighter you wrap it, that means the more
if your legs turning purple, it's not good.
No, that's what I literally put down there. I was like, look at your foot for discoloration. Is it turning a different color? If it is, make it less tight. So don't be an idiot. Okay, compression, huge. Next, elevation, getting that knee above your heart. That's also going to help with that joint, the bleeding in the joint and the swelling. The body, you can use the body's natural circulation and lymphatic system to help pull some of that out by elevating the knee. Let gravity do its work. So I would say in the evening times, get that leg. If you're sitting, lay down and prop. In bed, keep your knees slightly propped. That's really going to help. You don't have to elevate all day, obviously, but when you have the time. Okay, the next thing we want to work on is that acute weakness in the quad that we're feeling. So one good exercise is called a quad set. It's basically you lay down, you put a little towel behind your knee, and you're trying to push the back of your knee into the towel, like contracting your quad muscle, like squeezing your quad muscle. And it's going to actually be really hard to do that, especially because of the swelling, because of the pain, because of the injured ligament. The quad is not going to want to fire like that. So this is actually going to be a lot harder than it seems. So by just contracting and doing an isometric quad set or quad contraction, that is going to help to quote unquote wake up that muscle, and it can help pump out some swelling too, because you have that, muscles are a big way you actually get swelling out of an area, because you get them to contract. So I would say try to do that for 3 minutes of just squeezing, relaxing, squeezing that muscle, relaxing, and try to build up to 3 sets. So you'd be doing this for about 9 minutes total during the day. Any questions on that?
So you're saying maybe do one set in the morning, one in the afternoon, one in the evening?
Yeah. In the first day, you might only get 1 set in before you're like, that was tough.
Yeah.
Like that, my quads, shivering. Oh my gosh. It's like, shaking. That's the word. Dadgummit. Another exercise you want to get into is they're called knee slides. Okay. So there's a bunch of different ways you can do this. The easiest way, you sit in a chair, you on some sort of slick surface like hardwood floors, tile, I don't care, with a sock on, and you just slide your leg and see how far you can kind of pull it underneath your body. And after you get as far as you feel comfortable going, you'd kick it back out, letting it slide on the floor. That's why they're called knee slides. You're sliding your leg, bending that knee. Do it for 3 minutes. Build up to 3 sets. So now you're up to 18 minutes of exercise or rehab during the day. The next thing you want to try and do is, once you feel like your quad is adequately able to contract and you can hold it for a good bit, you want to try straight leg raises. So you're laying on your back, you contract your quad, and you just raise your leg up as high as you can, and then back down. And you want to build up to about, I don't know, anywhere from 15, 30 repetitions, maybe 20, something like that.
Yeah.
Build up to 3 sets. So not only are you going to get a good quad contraction with that, you're also going to get the leg elevated too. So you get a little bit of that. Attempt to do these every day. These are the core ones of compression, elevation.
You're saying elevate, compress, and then do your actual exercise, which is a quad set, knee slide, and then the straight leg raise.
Yeah, I think these are good to work on initially. I mean, we're talking a week after you injured it. Mm-hmm. And what you really want to do, and there's other things you can do too. And anything that doesn't cause pain or instability, you can do those things during this phase. It's just you probably won't be able to, because if your quad isn't strong enough at this point to contract to raise your leg, you're probably not going to be doing any squats. You're just going to give out. Mm-hmm. So I recommend when you move on to phase 2 is when the swelling in that leg looks like your non-injured knee, or pretty close. It doesn't have to be exactly. I have to pull out a tape measure and, do a circumvent. Oh my gosh. I can't say that word today, man. Do a measurement around your knee. It's got to look pretty close. Mm-hmm. You want to be able to bend your knee 120 degrees. Cam, what's 120 degrees? I don't have one of those handy-dandy measuring tools. I'm glad you asked. So if you're sitting down and your knee's at 90 degrees, you should know what 90 degrees looks like. Have someone look at it from the side. If you can slide it back, you would put like a little mark where your heel is at 90 degrees. Measure how big your foot is. Put it on where the back of your heel is, and if you can slide your knee back to where it is about 1 foot away from where you were at 90 degrees, that's going to be getting you pretty close to 120. I don't know if that makes any sense. You're sitting in a chair, your legs bent to 90 degrees. You want about as far as your foot that would be like measured from behind your heel, and you just keep sliding that leg and bending your knee until you're about that distance from your start point. That's going to get you pretty close to 120. And then you want 0 degrees of extension, meaning your knee is straight. You want to be able to perform at least 30 repetitions of that straight leg raise without your knee bending, okay? And then you want your pain levels to be below a 3, aka like mild pain, whatever you would consider mild. Like there's severe, moderate, mild, that mild and potentially a little moderate, but more on the mild side. That's when you can progress to phase 2. And there's a lot of bleed over and all that kind of stuff in the clinic, and that's why having a good physical therapist can guide you through this, and it's not so like systematic. There's a little give and take. Any questions on phase 1, Annabelle?
No, I think that makes sense.
We're really just trying to get those initial impairments under control, so that way we can start to focus on phase 2, which is maximize strength. We want to maximize the strength. So things we want to address in this phase are the knee weakness, and you can still potentially have some loss of knee range of motion. There can still be some swelling in there, all that kind of stuff. So we still want to work on the range in that knee. Okay, things to work on. We want, on all these things I'm about to say too, you want to progress, add weight, go to the next progression of the exercise. When the activity, you're having minimal to no feeling of instability or pain. So again, that's something that only you can figure out because it's internal to you. But when you have that is when you can kind of make the exercises harder, blah, blah, blah. A good thing to get on is a stationary bike, recumbent bike, upright bike, doesn't really matter. Start biking. That's going to be great. That's going to help start. And you can kind of do that in that initial phase 2. But a lot of people, at that point, a few weeks after the injury, you're not going to be wanting to head to the gym. You're going to want to be doing things you can do at home. But at this point, we want to make sure we're getting on the stationary bike. I recommend 5 to 20 minutes, something like that. Minimum 5, max 20 for now. That's going to be a really good exercise. We want to start initiating some body weight mini squats. So whether you're holding on to something or you got a chair behind you, you want to start giving a little bit of a squat motion. Just mini, quarter squat. You're not going too deep. You're starting to wake up that knee. And then, of course, the progression would be a full squat. You squat down to 90 degrees and back up. Sets and reps, we'll stick with a classic 3 sets of 10. Once you can do 3 sets of 10 with a mini squat and no feelings of instability or minimal pain, progress to the full squat. You want to be able to work on step-ups, stepping up onto a stool, a step, a box, whatever, and progressing it to be a higher step. So once you feel like you can do that step height for 3 sets of 10, you want to build up to a higher step height and work up from there. You got some step downs where you're literally face the opposite direction. You're just stepping off and back on. But you keep your injured leg on the stool. So you step off with your non-injured and then back up. Step off with your non-injured, then back up.
Hey, on the step up, how high should they go?
I have people go up to about 12 inches in the clinic.
Oh, okay.
So it's a pretty big step. I start them off at a 4, then I go 6, 8, 12.
Okay.
But technically you could get up to the point where you're stepping up on like a box, like where you do a box squat, and that could be 24 to, it could be up to. I maybe not do 36, but it could get up to 24 inches.
Yeah.
Start with some mini lunges. Same thing, like a quarter lunge, working to a full lunge, 3 sets of 10. We also want to do some more of like lateral movements. So like sidestepping with a band around your ankles or knees. We don't want to overlook the hips. A side to side lunge. Again, 3 sets of 10. And here's when we get to the goodies. Once you're able to do the full squat, the full lunge, a good step up, height, again, 8 to 12 inches, whatever. And a good step down height. I really wouldn't go higher than like a 6 inch on a step down.
Okay.
We can start barbell deadlifting and barbell back squatting, and we're going to start building some strength. I personally, on my surgical ACL patients, before they can move on to the dynamic phase where we're doing the return to sport activities, they've got to be able to deadlift their body weight and squat at least 50% of their body weight. And it gives them a goal. A lot of, and again, they're mainly younger clients, like we talked about, that 14 to 25. But for them, and they're trying to return to sport, they got to be able to, they got to have that strength. They got to be able to deadlift their body weight, squat half their body weight. And that would be my recommendation for this before you move on to the next phase. I would say don't attempt these every day. Obviously, that's way too much. And you might not do all of these at the same time. You know, you might need to mix and match. Give yourself 30 to 40 minute session. Do it 3 times a week. You know, just like you would do any sort of workout program. Maybe you add in this exercise at some point, then you add in this exercise. But the way I have them laid out there is the progression I would go in. Start with the bike, start with some mini squats, do some step ups, and that might be your first session. Day 1, you do that 2 times a week, and then on that third workout of the week, you add in step down. I don't know, like you just have to feel your body and feel what the instability.
So you're
feels like.
saying start with like 2 exercises.
Yeah, something like that. It's variable. You know your body. Again, see a physical therapist; they'll be able to guide you through. So try that 3 times a week. When to progress to phase 3, like we said about the deadlifting your body weight, back squatting 50% of your body weight, and being able to complete most of those activities without the feeling of instability or pain. Like you feel pretty secure. Any questions about phase 2?
No, that makes sense.
And I know some people are like, well, I need timeline. Is it 4 weeks?
Yeah.
Or, you know, is a good rule of thumb is about 4 weeks for a phase, 4 to 6 weeks in a phase. That's typically about the timeline, at least for surgical protocols that I've seen in use.
So 4 to 6 weeks each phase.
Yeah, but again, some people progress fast. I know some people are like, what's the normal, and will you progress me, you know, how I'm actually responding? And a lot of times I go, we'll combine the two. Like I don't want to break the doctor's orders, but I also don't want to hold you back. So we'll kind of, we'll go on, we'll get to the line and see what we can do. Phase 3, we want to now ensure that the patient is able to participate in the desired activities without episodes of functional instability or giving way. What are the things you want to get back to? And now we need to start working on those things. Okay.
So recreating the movements.
Exactly. So we don't want to throw out everything we just worked on in phase 2. So I still think you need to continue 3 times a week with barbell deadlift and barbell back squat. I'm talking like that 3 sets, 5 to.
But maybe not so much a step up, step down, and.
Yeah, I mean, if you have time, great. But all these other activities are going to be quad blasters and hamstring blasters. Yeah, okay. So I would continue with those. So we're going to address in this phase single leg activities, plyometric, sport drills, and jogging. You don't want to jog just yet because jogging is like you're on a single leg. You're putting all your weight through that leg, and you don't want. You want the quad to be strong at this point, and you probably want to have gone through some even jumping activities because you're basically just jumping. I mean, you're jogging, you're putting all your weight. So but we want to work on that in this phase. So the first thing you want to do is just start jumping in place. It might be small little jumps. You might be a little hesitant. You might need to hold on.
You might feel funny.
You might feel funny. Set a timer for a minute. Start jumping. Timer goes off, rest, repeat 3 to 4 rounds. Once you feel good with that, try jumping jacks. So you might not feel good with that, and then that way you might need to continue doing exercises from phase 2. If the jumping in place feels good, then I'd move to jumping jacks. So now you're getting a little jump, but now it's to the side instead of just up and down. It's going to give you a little bit more lateral and stability. Try it for a minute. Go 3 rounds. That feels pretty good. Get onto a step. Try 4 inches first, 6 inches. Jump off of it. And try and land equally with all these things. And you're feeling for that instability and or pain. After jump downs, we got forward jumps. You're starting to jump for some distance. Again, the easiest thing to do with the jumping activities, set a timer for a minute, 30 seconds to a minute, repeat a couple rounds. Once you feel good and you feel you got the 2-legged jumps down pack, you've gone up, you've gone down, you've gone forward, you've gone to the side. Now we want to go single leg jumping activity. So the exact same thing. Single leg jumping in place. Set a timer, 1 minute, 3 rounds. Side to side jumping. It's almost like the jumping jack, but now you're on one leg. You're going side to side. Set a timer, 3 minutes or 3 rounds of 1 minute. Again, forward jump. How far can you jump forward? That kind of thing. Single leg jump downs, jumping off of a step on one leg. Now these are going to be tough activities. So you got to really focus, but hopefully at this point we build enough strength. You feel good with 2-legged jumps, and now we're on single leg jumps. After you've mastered those, we got to get into some cone activities, side-to-side motions, forward, backwards, all that kind of diagonals.
So using the 4 to 6 week time from here, this would probably be more towards week 4 or 5.
At phase 3, you're probably looking at about 12 weeks post-injury at this point.
Okay.
Yeah, if we're going like 6 weeks.
So I guess I meant like 4 to 5 in this phase.
Oh, and then in this phase now, you're probably at
doing this towards the end
you're
when you're talking about the cone drill.
Yeah, you're probably at 16 weeks.
Okay.
Post-injury at this point, because you've gone through 2 phases of 4 to 6, which is going to give you maybe around 12 weeks at this point, and then now you're in phase 3, and you've already been working through it, so you're at least 3 to 4 weeks into this phase. So you're at a good 14, 16 weeks at this point. So again, cone activities, they're almost like shuffles. You're side to side. You're in that athletic stance. Different ways you can do cone activities. We don't have to belabor the point. And then we want to get to some jogging. See what jogging feels like. Jogging. Did you ever watch that baseball video of that guy? He'd say jogging instead of
Is that
jogging.
what it's from?
I think so.
I thought it was Anchorman.
Oh, is it?
I don't know.
We'll look this
They
up.
can let us know.
This is way more important.
Jogging. Continue.
And then maybe even getting into some squat jumps. So now you're combining like almost a full range of motion and explosion. Attempt this 3 times a week. You'll be in this phase for a little bit. And then after you've kind of mastered this stuff is when you want to start looking at, and again, you can start putting your sport activities. If you're, a lot of this is going to cover most of sports activities and the movements, but maybe you just need to get out onto the pitch, as we talked about last week. Get out into the soccer field and start running around and see what that feels like. So.
Yeah, and I think there's a psychological aspect too.
Oh, yeah.
Being able to trust that leg again.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to have to go out there and then scale it.
Yeah.
Whatever that might look like for you.
Yeah. And guys, this is another good, Annabelle brought up a really good point that I want to touch on, is the psychological aspect of this. And then also, you're not a failure if you don't pass that screening tool. You're not a failure if you have to modify your activities. You're not even a failure if you can't get through this rehab without, being able to progress to the next phase and you're thinking, do I need to have surgery now? You're not a failure for needing surgery. Talk to some local orthopedic surgeons. They can help you out. Like even if you've gone 16 weeks post, people have gone a long time before they've had their ACL reconstructed with surgery. Like you don't have to have it immediately after. You can try some of these things first. You're not going to have like a quote unquote worse outcome, so to speak.
I guess for those out there who are probably wondering, is there a point there that you would say this is too late? Whether that's, I don't know, if we're talking months or years, that you would say, maybe you shouldn't get surgery, or is it never too late?
That's a really good question. I'm actually unsure of that. All the surgeries I've had have been almost immediately after, but I've known of some people who had a hard time getting in, and they weren't seen for 3 to 6 months. And they'll still have surgery done. I don't know if there's an actual point or not.
Yeah,
that's a good question. I'll have to look that one up. But again, you guys are not a failure if you can't make it through this. And surgery is always an option for this. But that's all that I got with non-surgical, protocol screening and all that kind of stuff. If you do decide to have surgery, man, you just need to go see a therapist. And most of the time the doctor, I'm not going to say they're going to force you, but they just had surgery. They just had surgery. Insurance paid a lot of money. They're going to highly suggest you see a professional to track your rehab and everything.
You do it for a lot of other surgeries. Why not this?
Exactly. No, you definitely need a therapist for this. So, I'm not even going to give a surgical protocol because you just need to see your physical therapist for that. It'll be pretty similar to what this is, but there's going to be a little bit more hard lines. Like you're going to want to be at 90 degrees by week 2 and like 115 and 120. Like you want to be, before you move on to the next phase, you have to,
they can properly track you.
Yes,
and
exactly.
Progress you as needed.
Exactly. You don't want to fall behind. So I'm not even going to give a surgical one. Go see your physical therapist. Your surgeon's going to send you anyway. But that's all that I got for this one, Annabelle. You got anything?
That's all I got, Doc.
Well, guys, this one might have been a little boring.
Boring.
We had to go into some research and some protocols here.
No, I think it's helpful though.
But that might be you out there, or you might know somebody who tore their ACL. Share this with them. Hopefully this goes.
If you have any questions, just DM us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We're more than willing and happy to answer any questions you guys might have. We can answer on Facebook, X now, or Instagram, or I guess that's the only way they can contact us. So
I think that, yeah.
I don't know if does Spotify have any way they can contact us?
I don't think so.
You could leave a comment, say help.
Help.
We may or may not read it. I don't know. You guys got to comment first, though.
Yeah.
All right, man. That's all I got. We'll see you guys next time. But remember, you're human. We should not seek perfection, but daily improvement.
All right. See you guys.